So I finally finished Guards by Terry Pratchett, and I've got things to say about it, so let's dive in. So Guards is the 8th Discworld novel by Terry Pratchett. It's the book that introduces Sam Vimes to us. He's kind of the head of the City Watch, and he's a bit down on his luck, along with all the other members of the City Watch. And then we've got Carrot, who's a human, but he was raised by dwarves in the mountain, and he gets sent to Ankh-Morpork to become part of the City Watch, and antics ensue. Let's start off with 3 bad things about the book, because then it can only get better from there. The first off is that Lady Ramkin, she's the only woman in the book, which is an issue to begin with, but I feel like a lot of the times they described her in very questionable ways. She's not like your typical woman in a fantasy book, and sometimes they described her in just particular ways, and like it's kind of just the way that Terry Pratchett writes, but also at times it kind of got a little bit much. I was kind of like, oh, okay. It was a lot at times, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but that was a negative for me. The second bad thing, I think, is that the ending. I think the ending is probably the weakest part of this book. Having said that, it's a really, really good book, and I really enjoyed it, but the ending kind of just felt like things weren't really connecting. I kind of felt like there were scenes missing at some point. Like things just kind of needed explaining that were never really fully fleshed out. You were kind of just left to fill in the gaps. And I like endings like that, but I feel like there were too many gaps and too many gaps. There were too many gaps to fill in, and the gaps were just too big to begin with. And the third bad thing is kind of part of the second bad thing, but I couldn't really come up with a third bad thing because I liked the book so much, was that it kind of lacked a climax. Like there is a climax, but it's not the one you expect. I don't want to spoil it, but it's not really the climax that you expect it's going to be. It's different. And maybe that was just because I expected something different from the book, but it kind of fell a little bit flat for me, not gonna lie. Now let's get on to 3 good things about the book. I could say way more than 3 good things about the book, but I have restricted myself so this video isn't 10 years long. The first good thing is the unexpected story. Unlike some other Discworld novels, the blurb doesn't give you a whole lot to go off for Guards. So I really enjoyed diving into the story, not knowing a whole lot, and really being surprised when I turned the page. It was such a fun read just because I had no idea what was going to happen. The second good thing is that this book is hilarious. I really feel like this is the funniest Discworld book that I've read yet. Granted, I've only read 3, but like, this is a really funny book. I just really enjoyed it. I had myself laughing out loud at like multiple occasions, which I never do when I read, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. And the third good thing for me, at least the third good thing that I feel like I should mention, is that this really made the world feel huge, because what happens in this book is like a major event. But I've read Monstrous Regiment, and that really made the world feel big and expansive. But then I read Mort, and it made the world feel kind of small. But then Guards just opens that up again, because it's a huge event that takes place in this book. It's never really mentioned in the other books that I've read. It just makes the world feel so expansive and like huge that all these characters can exist and have different things happen to them. But when they all come together for one story, it doesn't really matter. That's one of the reasons I liked the book. I don't know if that makes sense. And now we're moving on to 3 connections that I found in this book to other books in the Discworld series. So the first one is that this book is the first in a series, like a sub-series for Discworld. Guards is the first in the City Watch series. I think Carrot shows up in the other ones, but I'm not really sure, but I know that this is the first book in like a sub-series for Discworld. The second one is the Duchess of Worm. I can't remember her name, but she showed up right at the end, and I have a feeling she's probably going to be showing up in other books, because we haven't been to Quirm yet. We've seen it mentioned here and there. I think it got mentioned in Mort, and then again in Guards, so I feel like we're heading there, you know, we're gonna get there eventually. And the last one, it's not really a definite connection, but I have a theory. Hear me out, I have a theory. Errol the Dragon. I don't know, when I first read that, I was like, I feel like I've read this somewhere before. I don't remember if it was in Monstrous Regiment, because I haven't reread that yet. I feel like we're going to be seeing Errol the Dragon sometime again in Discworld, and I have to say I'm a little bit excited about it. And yeah, I think that'll wrap up everything that I've got to say about Guards. I really, really enjoyed this book. It's really funny and it's really unexpected. It's not as good as Monstrous Regiment, but it's still really up there. It's better than Mort, not as good as Monstrous Regiment, but I think I'll be very surprised when I find a Discworld book that is better than Monstrous Regiment. The next book in the Discworld series that I'm going to be reading is The Colour of Magic. This is the first Discworld book in the series. I feel like I'm going to really start making people mad, because I'm doing I'm literally doing the opposite of reading these in order. This is the first book in the Discworld series. I've already read the 31st, the 4th, the 8th, and now I'm reading the 1st. I don't know. I know that Rincewind appears in this one again. He wasn't in Guards, but he was in Mort, so I'm excited to read more about that and just kind of learn about the origins and where everything started with Discworld. It'll be interesting. I'm really excited to read it. You guys should totally read along because I said so. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about these two books. Let me know what you guys thought about Guards if you read along. And yeah, thanks for watching. I think that'll wrap that up.